as we were talking, as Ariel jumped on and was talking earlier, that the last 2 days are part of the Codebreaker um, Power Summit, and there were so many amazing speakers. So many people had a lot of things to share. Christine is here with us. She shared some of her amazing journey and strategies to work with students. It was just amazing. But one of the things that Brian wrapped up on, and it was awesome. He was able to really summarize what everybody was talking about. Is and he ended with that you matter. Like it was really, it seems like a small thing. It seems like, oh yeah, I got that. I understand. But it really resonated when he brought everything together. So one of the things that I want to kind of talk about, because I don't, I'm not directly involved with students day to day. I work a lot with staff, and I'm going to share some of the ideas about that. I actually have an opportunity to speak to some educators Wednesday night in Rhode Island, and doing some of the work around mentoring and you matter. But it really hit me today, and I really wanted to turn it over to the teachers that came on to see how you convey that to students. What are some things that you're doing to show the students that they matter? And I'm not saying you don't do that, because we've talked for almost a year now, and here's Dennis. Look at him. Can we bring him over for a change?
Wow, it's been a year,
It's
almost a year.
almost a year.
Crazy.
Um,
Time went by.
It has been.
there he is. There he is. What's up? Shirt and all, back from. How you doing?
How you guys doing this evening?
Good. Milwaukee Brewers and everything.
Yeah, I heard you had this great topic about like how do you let students know that they matter. And
yeah, and you just showed up out of nowhere. I love it. So I'm gonna just turn it over to Ariel and Carrie first, and then Dennis. You and I want to talk about how we do that with staff. And again, it wasn't really the topic we brought up with, but it really, what I really like about what we've been doing, especially in the last month, is just what's trendy. What have we been talking about? And that was definitely one that was resonated throughout the whole weekend, that a lot of people talked it through. As I said, Christine's here. She talked about it with how empowering students. She had student videos. It really showed how much that impacted to have students speak and talk, and her work with them. And this morning I talked about how you create connections and have those that impact you. So I'd love to hear from Ariel and Carrie. How do you convey that message to students?
Carrie, I'll let you go first.
So I think that, I think to show students that they matter doesn't always have to be with great grandeur. I think it takes little things and little moments and a lot of attention on our part to do simple things to show students that they matter. Like just standing out in the hallway and greeting them as they come into your room. Or if you have other students that you see in the building that are not just your students, being out in the hallway during passing periods and just smiling at them. Or as I was telling my own kids, I was telling them I was in the hallway the other day and I wanted to just make sure certain kids knew that I noticed that they were in the building. And they're like, how do you smile with your mask? I'm like, I smile with my eyes. And they're like, Mom, how do you do that? I'm like, I don't know. I've been really working on it, just really smiling with my eyes, But I think like just making sure that every student knows that I recognize them, that I say hi to them when they come in my classroom. And I think that is something really simple that I can do. Taking time before class to really embrace that time, have conversations, joke around. I love when, anytime there's an inside joke that we have with my students, I feel like that's just a moment that's just really special. And then from there, giving students, we all have to interact with the curriculum or whatever our expectations are as adults or as teachers, we have to have that. But any opportunity I can build in to allow students to shine and show the parts of them that are special to them. So when we're doing projects, giving lots of open-ended projects so that students could choose how they want to share the information that they've learned, so they can really tap into their strengths and little pieces of them. I feel like that shows them that they matter, that their strengths matter, and who they are as creators matters or learners. And then finally, my most favorite way to really connect with students and show that they matter is to create opportunities that give us moments in our classrooms. And for me, that's a lot of opportunities to play games, whether it's board games or games that I've created in my classroom. I think anytime that we can come together and play games together, it gives us kids an opportunity to show different parts of themselves. I think it also gives students that may have different strengths than we don't see through curriculum really shine. But I love the moments and the stories and the laughs that games give us. And I think that really makes students, gives them a chance to feel like they matter in my classroom. That's it.
No, that's awesome.
I can't follow that up.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can. You're
No,
amazing.
I'm just going to say ditto. I also wanted to add to everything Carrie said, but I've really worked hard this year in incorporating my students' families and backgrounds and just their life experiences outside of the classroom in our classroom. I try and throw students' names in tests and quizzes and in assignments as much as I can. I know what my students like, I know their interests, and they know mine. And it really just makes them feel like I hear them. I validate their feelings, and I know what they do on the weekends, and I ask about their families, and then they ask about mine. On Friday, I had the funniest exchange. One of my students was like, "What are you eating for dinner tonight?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm not sure. You could help me pick it out." And he's like, "Are you going to have dinner with your mom?" I'm like, "I might." And he's like, "Well, what does your mom like to cook?" And it was so funny. He was using stories that I was sharing through the week. He's like, "You said your mom likes meatballs." And I'm like, "She does like to make meatballs." And it was so cute because it was such a great exchange from that student's perspective, doing what I do with them and incorporating their lives into our curriculum. They're incorporating my life into their conversations. And I really felt touched. I was like, this is a really great experience, that this is a child that hears me. He respects what I have to say, and he appreciates when I do that with him as well. So everything Carrie said and more.
No, no, that's awesome. And Lisa, I just want to make sure that in the chat, I was saying if you wanted to join over, I'd bring you over. I'd love to hear what you were talking about on screen. I'm gonna throw a question to Dennis while you, if you don't mind responding in the chat. If that's something you want to do, happy to have you come over. We pull people over who want to share all the time. So Dennis, I know you and I work more with adults. So what are, and this is a time where we want to ensure our teachers as well, make sure, or all of our educators, that they matter. I'd love to hear some of the things besides taking Jason out to Wendy's. What are some of the things, and tell him we miss him, that you've been doing to show that?
And you'd be glad to know we're eating healthier now. So like we've cut back on our fast food intake.
We can tell. We can tell. Look at you.
Wendy's might not be as happy about it, but it'll be okay. One of the first things I try to tell everyone is we have this tendency as adults to just always be on the go. Hello, how you doing? I'm doing good. And you just keep walking. And the reality is a lot of times, a lot of people aren't doing good. We all have a lot of problems that we're all going through. And sometimes it's just taking the time to just really listen to someone and have a genuine conversation with someone. It's not you're the teacher, I'm the principal. It's not we're just colleagues. I'm a person that really cares about how you're actually doing. Is there anything that I can do to assist you? And really caring about you as a person first. I hope that's something that sticks with all of us as we continue to move forward, and not just with the pandemic and everything else. Another key attribute is when you talk about the instructional pieces, there's nothing more rewarding, at least I believe this, when you're talking about curriculum and you're talking about instruction, and we can actually have a conversation about what the needs are in the classroom, and that you actually get in the classroom to see what is happening in the classroom. One of the things that teachers talk about, Matt, and it's a secret, well, it's supposed to be a secret, but I know it's really not. They always talk about the administrator that makes all the curriculum decisions and tell you what you're supposed to teach, but yet you never go into the classroom to see how it actually works. Like, you always get talked about.
I hear you. I hear you. I hear you.
And the thing is, no one's trying to hear that you're busy and you're planning. No one wants to hear that side. They want to know, like, if you're so invested in what we're doing, come see it in action, or come stand by me and do it with me. Provide me with feedback. Let me ask you questions. And I really try to create an environment where anyone can challenge anyone. I'm not anyone that's like above anyone. I just have the title of the principal. That's it. But some of the other things that I want to get better at, Matt, and I tell myself this every Sunday night, start writing little hand personal notes and putting them on teacher's desk again. And I actually have some Batman little note cards that I give out. And then I have like my principal desk one. So if you go above and beyond, I try to give you the little Batman one. And the funny thing is, teachers that I gave note cards to, I want to say last year, my first year at this school, if I go into their rooms, there's like this space that
Yep.
like you can see that note card still hanging up. Now, sometimes I don't want them to hang the note card up because teachers do go read other teachers' personal notes.
Right.
So now it's competition. Like, so what am I going to say about this person next? So that's just another thing that I just thought about, that I know, and I'm gonna try to do at least 5 tonight that I can go in tomorrow and put 5 notes on the teacher's desk.
I love it.
And it shows that you value them. I think that's a piece that when you to show someone that they matter, you value them. And I know we've talked about giving people voices through multiple things that have happened over the last year, but making those notes show so that you matter. I still remember, I have one, Dr. Diane Poulin, who was the chairperson for my dissertation. I went back the next year, and like they have a new class come in every 2 years, and they have people speak to them, and I went and spoke to them, and she like mailed me this nice like thank you note for coming in. Like I'm like, this is awesome. Like this was so worth it to me, and I still have it. It was up on my desk in my last role, and now I have it where I'm at now, and it makes a big difference. And because we go through a lot of stuff in what we do, and to see, to appreciate the educators, as Dennis and I are talking about, because we work more with adults, and appreciate students like Carrie and Arrow were talking about is so important. And Lisa was chatting about it, and I wanted to, and who has contributed in the past, so I wanted to have you come back on. What are some of the things that you do, and if you can refresh us the role that you have and some of the things that you've done to have students feel like they matter?
Okay, well, thanks so much for bringing me in again. My role, I've been redeployed several times this year because of obviously COVID. So I started with the contained autistic room, working with severe complex needs. I then moved into solely virtual grade 5, and now I'm teaching a hybrid SK1 class, but now in Ontario, we're struggling a little, so we are fully virtual. So there's many ways that I've had to do engagement, and working with the complex learning needs really stretched my out-of-box thinking skills. And the one positive thing that COVID has brought to education is our true value of well-being with our students. And I think that's a very important takeaway. It's not something we just say anymore. It's something that we actually need to check in with our students. So being with the little ones, I do a check-in in the morning, and we do some gratitude writing every morning, and they have their sentences, they throw it in a jar, and then we talk about what they're grateful for. And it could be anything from how does the sun make you feel, to you heard a bird chirping outside, why are you grateful for that? And then after lunch is my favorite part, where I put a core board up there's a visual prompt for our learners, and I ask them what they had for lunch, and I always put a few of their favorites just to help connect that learning. And then what did they do during their lunch break? And then I always take the time to either take pictures of my lunch, or I have 2 kids, so taking pictures of what we did during the lunch hour together. And I always try to model, going outside or being physically active, but letting them know that I have a family too. And I always talk, we have couple of my students, they love Domino's, so we always talk about pizza toppings, and 6 of them had fries on Friday. So we talked about how Friday needs to be fun Friday, like French fries. And those kinds of conversations is what has really developed and nurtured that relationship, which has brought that true classroom community together. And then it's so much easier to have engagement once they trust you. And I think it's important for educators to remember that although they are students, they're first and foremost children. These are somebody's pride and joy, who have thoughts, ideas, skills, talents, and interests. And we need to be the other adult that values those pieces about them. Because if they're only hearing validation, or maybe they're not, from home, it may be hard for them to transfer that belief out into the world. But we can be that little bridge that says, no, this is pretty awesome about you. I want to hear more about that. Tell me more, or show me more. So that's such a unique role. We have the ability to look for the good in our community, whereas other roles such as law enforcement and health professionals, they're always trying to find out the problem. We're trying to find out the good. So that's something that I value, and I really take to heart. And it's so much easier, like I said, to start curriculum when you have a relationship to begin with your students.
No, and I think that's super important. And again, I keep bringing up the last 2 days because it just made an impression. And I know Christine's still with us. One of the things when she was talking about yesterday about supporting students, especially those who are anxious, is say, "What can I do for you?" That was one of. I mean, she said it much more, eloquent than I could because this is her work. But what can I do for you? And turning over the onus of control. And Lisa, you brought something up that I wanted to throw it back to the crew about building that trust and having the students, or with Dennis and I working with adults. How do you build that trust with students, especially now? Sometimes it has to be virtual, but I'd love to hear how you've started to build that trust, because we talked about valuing students and we talked about you matter. And Lisa, that was a great point about how you build that trust. So I'd love to hear that.
So I can jump in. Because I've already been. Dennis, were you going to say something? Sorry, you leaned in.
Okay, it's just one last thing about, and at least you made me think of this.
Keep going.
Just say thank you to people. Like, one of the things like we do not do enough in the world of education is just say thank you. Thank you for getting up this morning and giving your best to kids, because you're going through something and this is really hard. Thank you for putting the extra hours in at night, because we all know that education is not your typical 9 to 5. You're waking up early in the morning and planning. You're planning on the weekends. You're planning late at night. Thank you for sacrificing time with your family, because sometimes your family misses out because you're so involved in what's happening with the day-to-day operations. Thank you for just being a voice for kids and advocating for them. Like, we just really need to get to the point where we just start like stepping back and just saying thank you, to show the appreciation for what educators do each and every day.
And one of the things that we both said, oh, we're going to turn over you two now, the two of us jump in. But one of the things I wanted to say with that, which goes to the beginning of it, you could do that, but if the people you're saying thankful for never see you before, as what Carrie was saying and what you're saying, it's going to be like, oh, it must be like that time that I get the thanks. So I 100% agree with you, Dennis, 1,000%. I'm just layering that on top of, also make sure that they know that they mattered to you and they valued you before you did that. So when you thank them for something, it's genuine. And I think that's critically important.
I agree. I mean, so like you have to trust the thank you, right? Like if we don't see you, I think that's what you were saying, Matt. If we don't see you and you're not out there and we don't have a relationship with you to know that we matter, the thank you doesn't always matter either. That's, I think, is that what you mean?
100%. It's the forced apology to your sister. Like, say you're sorry. Say thank you for the extra food. Oh, thank you. Like, it's the being genuine of who you are, and knowing Dennis as I do, his authenticity always shines through. But that administrator out there who you don't see until like the day before Thanksgiving break, and they're like, oh, thank you for all you do, and you're like, oh, who are you again?
So I read recently, it was like a little meme, I think, a little post or something, and it said something to the effect of, don't fall in love with people's words, fall in love with their actions. And as we talk about like that whole trust dynamic, it was really more geared to like relationship posts. But when you think about like relationships in schools too, if I fall in love with how you're treating me every day and I see you and you're visible and you're engaging with kids, because teachers watch for that too, Matt. They watch to see, are you really talking and still like grounded where you can talk to kids and the kids know you? Because the kids don't know you in the school, you lose all credibility with the teachers. Like that's something else I learned too, but that's another big secret. So administrators, make sure you know the kids in your school too. But that part, like you said, that authenticity of just being visible and being a part of what's really going on and being a part of the culture, that's going to build that common bond. That's going to build that trust where when I need something, I can come talk to you.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah. And I was even thinking when Dennis was talking about the notes and Matt was saying something too. And Matt had mentioned value, but the word that came to mind for me when Dennis was talking about the notes is the word notice. I think teachers really want to be noticed. They want the notes show that Dennis is noticing things, right? The thank you, the consistent thank yous, all the things that Dennis said that teachers should be thanked for means that somebody noticed something that we were doing. And I think when we talk about like, like what Ariel shared her stories and Lisa shared those, you know, what makes kids matters and what gives kids, what builds trust is when we notice things. So first we have to notice that something's going well or something's going wrong or something about them. And then we have to act and listen. And then we have to follow through, which means we have to continue to notice the little things in our students. And I think that's what builds trust between admin and teachers, as well as teachers and students, is when we notice the little things every day. I think that's what really matters a lot to us and to students.
I think too, just, you know, going back to that morale of administrator and educator, if an educator does not feel valued, they're going to have a really hard time showing up every single day trying to put that out there for their students if they themselves do not feel valued, validated, noticed in their school community. So it's so important for administrators to, you know, even if you have an incredible staff group, that they do need that reminder. It's nice to feel appreciated, and yes, and noticed for the work, even though it is the expectation. But unlike the private sector where other little things happen with, you know, bonuses or whatever, in the public sector of education, it's a little bit different. So just a handwritten note or a post-it goes a long way for people who are putting those hours in. And like you said, it does bring up the trust, and it has that open door policy.
And a true acknowledgement of feelings too. I've worked with administrators, I've been very fortunate that have really acknowledged feelings and just helped me and other colleagues know and students that you're not alone in your feelings and it's okay to feel that way. And by being honest with problem solving too really helps to build trust. That sometimes I'll say to students, I can't help you right now, but I'll work really hard to help you tomorrow, or I'm going to make sure that this is solved or fixed. And administrators have said that to me before, and I've never forgotten it. I love handwritten notes too. I have one right next to me that I keep in a journal because it's just so special. And as you're saying this about handwritten notes, I just I remind myself how special it is for us to give to students and for us to receive. But sometimes when you can't write a handwritten note or you have too many staff members or too many students to do that for, just acknowledging someone's feelings and being vulnerable and saying, I understand that you feel that way. I'm so sorry that you feel that way, or I want to help you, really, really goes a long way too. I had a situation where a principal was not able to help with something that I needed help with immediately, but her words really showed me in her actions that although she couldn't support me in that moment, I knew that she cared. And it was one of those exchanges that I truly felt heard and respected and valued, even though that problem was not solved that day, that week, that month. I knew that she was thinking about it and trying her best to support me. And I appreciated it and I never forgot it. And it's really the ripple effect. When somebody does that to you, you want to do back to someone else too. So a strong administrator that helps their teachers feel supported and heard and valued will make teachers that want their students to feel valued and supported. And hopefully then that ripples back to families too.
Well, that's where I was going to go next is especially working. And I know Emily had band practice tonight and couldn't join, but some of the new teachers come off of student teaching and they do a lot of, and I know this is the heartbeat of what we do to support some of our new teachers, and they have practice in building relationships with students a little bit, and they have practice in some of that with student teaching. But if you were going to give a tip or a suggestion to a new teacher on how to build relationships with families and build that trust and to talk about how they matter, what would be something that you would share with them on how to do that? Like, I know we're almost through with the year, but I actually had a friend whose daughter just graduated and going into the profession, and he's had her watch some of our things. So the next generation is coming out too. So for those who are finishing now, who are going into the workforce, how do they build relationships with families to build that trust as a 21-year-old just new to the field?
I think the core of it is being transparent and being honest and being available in the boundaries that work for you, but showing families that school exists beyond the four walls of the classroom and building that culture that we root our beliefs. We're teachers because we love children. Like Lisa said, children, our students are children. They're human beings. Somebody loves them so much and cares about them. And at home, they may be their parents' biggest pride and joy, but in the classroom, they may just be another number to us. But helping every family, which I hope that we don't feel that way, but when you teach a lot of students, they are one of many. But remembering that they're a very special individual with talents and strengths, and sharing that with families. And I always try and do a phone call at the beginning of the year. And this year was so unique. I try and do Google Meets now. And just meeting the students before I actually meet them in person went such a long way this year. And as the year goes on, I try and remember milestones and dates that are important. So that's the advice that I would give to new teachers, is just do your best to remember as much about the students as you can, and incorporate it into your daily conversations with families. Ask them, how was that birthday party, or how was your weekend with that sports event, or whatever you have. And it really goes a long way, because we may have 100 students on our caseload, but that family has one child that they love so much that you're their teacher. And something Melissa Hayes said, she's not here tonight, but I always remember this, is that child will experience this school year once. They will never get it back. So make it the best that you can. So if you have 100 students on your caseload during a pandemic and you're teaching hybrid, that child only experiencing fourth grade one time. So I really try and remind myself of that.
I think too, knowing your community, because each community, each pocket that you are part of in your school community just varies depending on where you live and the area. So knowing your community is really important. So being present at any community engagement events, working with other educators to put on community events, if that's something that you are able to do, is a great way to get to know your community. I think it's important to and I had already mentioned that, is yes, remember that they are somebody's pride and joy. They are sending you their best. They are sending you their best. And most of the time, they are doing everything they can and more to make sure their child has a better future than they presently have. So let's nurture that. Let's also respect that. And they are friends, not foe. They hold keys to so many little pieces of information that we are not privy to, but could really jumpstart a way that we either teach them in a different way or bring in a different resource. So they are a real key to your planning process as well. They could also have great connections in what maybe they do for work, that you could bring them in as a guest speaker or an event, again, pre-COVID, things like that. But I mean, they can be your friend, not foe. Communication is so, so huge, and keep it consistent, keep it open door, positive before negative, always, always.
Yeah, and it builds that community, and what you were saying, and all of you have been saying about how that they come to us and give them our best. One of the things that I always say, and I'm an elementary, or was an elementary principal, and I know Dennis is as well. And when our kids leave, they're around 10, they finish fifth grade. We've had them half their life. Like, we've literally had these kids half their life when they go to middle school. Like, you think about that. And, again, I was an elementary teacher and then elementary principal. Like, we have essentially had these children for half of their life, and that's what they've known. And you also said you send them to us for 6 hours. Not only half their life, they spend half their day with us. So having that partnership with families is critical, and having that transparency, I think, just makes things so much more smooth as they come in. I think it's very, very helpful to build that community, because the other thing is, pick a sport, pick an activity, obviously pre-COVID, but it'll start up again. Half the stuff that's talked about at the school happens on the soccer field. Half the things that are being talked about are happening at an event, at something outside of school. So building that partnership, I think, is really important.
I love that Lisa keeps going back to that we get everyone's most prized possession. It's something that I tell parents all the time when they come and they visit me, or when I'm just talking to staff members. When I talk to parents, I let them know right away that, truthfully, your kids are my kids. I spend more time with them in the day than you do. So it's my duty, it's my obligation to not just return them back to you safely, but to make sure that they're nurtured and cared for throughout that entire day. Um, and make sure that they feel connected and they feel loved. And that's that speaks to the heart of what we do all the time. The other thing that's very interesting that I really want to try to do, Matt, as a building administrator, we celebrate like kids' birthdays all the time. Like we read them off on the announcements and everything else. And one thing that I want to make sure I start spending a little bit more time doing is something as simple as it's somebody's birthday in the building, give them a birthday card. Let the entire building know that today is such and such birthday. Like, let's stop waiting for like the big holidays, the Thanksgiving, the Administrative Assistance Day. Let's start celebrating people's like true holidays, but then also celebrate just you being you. Because who doesn't like to have like that good word every once in a while? Like, you know what? I really liked when you did X. And being specific about the feedback that we're giving to people. So that it's not just this watered down, hey, it's okay.
No, that's awesome. And I'm going to totally interrupt and cut in because I just jumped over to Gwyneth's page here, and she starts off with the first thing is joyful learner. And then the first post is that every action taken by an educator should be done so with the knowledge that we hold our hands with immense power to impact how students see themselves, how they treat each other, and what they believe they can accomplish. So Gwyneth, thanks for being here tonight. Thanks for posting and being that educator. So it's just, talking about noticing people, I just was like, oh, what do you, that was the first thing I saw. And I was like, I got to share this. It was really, it feeds into what we're talking about tonight, is that we have that kind of, well, we're grateful to have you here as well. Have that in our profession and making sure we keep that in the forefront. And in Dennis, you're right on the money. I wanted to loop back to that. I think acknowledging that, because everybody walks through the same door. If we come into the same place, and making it a place you want to drive to instead of away from more days than not is, I think it's important.
Agreed. The only other thing that I would add to what everybody else has said is my other thought is that, and I think this is probably the most difficult thing for a new teacher versus a more seasoned teacher, is that parenting is really hard. And so when we are emailing our parents, when we start to notice, when we have to send or have conversations with parents about things that their children are struggling with or that they need, or that things that need to change, is just remembering to also be there to support the parents. And as a young educator, if you don't know how to support them, knowing who your people are that you could go to see what you can do for parents, because it's just, I think, always coming from that lens that they're doing the best that they can. And is there more that I can do to support them? Or is there something that I can do to help? Usually I'll ask, and the parents will never take me up on it. But the fact that they know that I know that parenting is hard, or that I know that they're doing everything they can, and that they're doing everything they can, I think noticing those things as in parents makes a difference. And not just blaming them. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, they're doing the best they can, I think. And when things are hard and we notice those things, that they're hard, or that they are really trying their best, or that we can do more to help support them, I think those are ways that we can build relationships with parents, and also trust, and also show our parents that they matter to us.
I think another thing as a new teacher, sorry, just one more thought I was thinking, is knowing yourself as a learner and as an educator. What is your personal vision? And how does that align with what actually needs to take place, or align with the school's vision that you are in? It's important to know your learning style, your communication style, and how that may affect or be difficult for some parents to take. Not all teachers are type A, and not all parents are type A. So we may need to tweak things, and just, again, know yourself in order to better serve your community. It's a differentiated instruction. I call it differentiated interviews. Know your audience and read the room.
And I'll piggyback off of that just a little bit more. Also understand what your bias is. when you are engaging with students. We don't talk about this enough in education, but we all do have one. Most educators were really good students when they were in school, so we expect everybody else to be good students too. Understand the Lisa, you keep talking about like the community, understand the makeup, the cultural makeup of your class. And if you don't have the experience or the knowledge, try to learn, go reach out to someone. Don't be ashamed to ask questions that you don't know answers to. One of the things that I love doing with Matt, if he has a question, he'll ask it. And he doesn't just ask it, Matt brings people together so that everybody can learn similar things that he's questions that he's questioning himself about. Like not knowing, not feeling that you're the only one. But the final piece as a new educator that is like critical at this point in time, especially with our topic for the night, is knowing what your core values are and making sure that everything that you do aligns with those core values. And it's to the point, like I even challenge people, tell me no more than 5 of your core values that define who you are at work. And then show me how they are present every day, but then also show me what happens when they conflict with one another. Because when we talk about our values, we talk about them in this positive sense, but there are times when your core values do collide and then one takes precedent over the other. What do you do in that situation? And when we help people navigate it that way, it's paying the price up front for long-term success down the road.
Yeah, and I think that's important to feel that if you're, again, this layering back to the first thing we talk about having, making sure people know that they matter, and trust. If you have that trusting community or school, you can ask those questions. Like you can ask questions to staff, or you can ask questions to people. I ask, you know, Dennis a lot of questions about race and equity, because I think he trusts me that I'm coming from a place of true question, and I trust his answer to me. But if it was somebody who didn't know why I was asking, or I was asking someone just randomly because they fit in the bucket of my question, then it's not going to be genuine. You're not going to get there. So having that trust in the community and the people that you surround yourself with allows you to then be able to do that. And I think that's very, I think, an important point. So 40 minutes flies by. Like when we were just diving in, we have about 5 minutes left, which I try to leave about 1 minute per person to kind of wrap up the week, or wrap up to make an action, kind of what are you going to do moving forward. So we can't use the handwritten notes because that was already been talked about, but there's something that you can commit to this week for either family, students, or another staff member that show them that they matter. Is there something I know it's right off the top of the head, but it's something I like to end with, is to empower the 5 of us, or however many join each week, or those who watch or who watch back after, that you can commit to for this week, if you feel safe enough to share.
I think something that I can commit to this week is we do virtual announcements, being that we're solely virtual right now. So to give a staff shout out school-wide, since I can't physically go around and give a post-it, I think that is something that is feasible, timely, and meets COVID protocol right now. So staff shout out virtually is what I'll do.
Trust me, they are going to enjoy it. I promise you, they're going to enjoy it. Jason is the master of like virtual announcements. That's all I can tell you. I know a guy that can connect with you.
I guess for me, we're coming up on state testing week next week. So super excited about that. I guess the thing I'm going to do to show my students they matter is to, like Lisa had said, to really read the room. And so if it means that we're playing more games or doing more activities that are less academically driven, and I say games, when I say games, I with the intent that games do have impact, but and I think everybody knows that, but I'm going to read my students. And so if we need to do more time spending time with each other than we do reading text or doing math problems, that's what we're going to do this week to balance off the stress that state testing can bring with them, and try to balance out the weeks so that it could be the so I can just make sure that they have the most positive experience with the experience that is state testing.
Sorry, my computer glitched for a second. I think this week I'm going to commit to reach out to families for positive phone calls. I started that in the beginning of the year, and I still am reaching out to them positively, but through email. And I think there really is power in voice. And especially this year, we send emails so quick and so often that I want to make it a point to just check in through the phone if I can. So that's something that I'm definitely going to do tomorrow. I was just writing it down. I have 5 students in mind I want to call in the next couple of days.
It's a great
For
idea.
me, I'm going to go and write notes to teachers. I'm going to shoot for at least 3 a day. That'll be 15 a week. And then my good friend slash mentor Jay Posick, he does a good news call of the day. Him and Mark French and Ryan Sheehy. And I think this week I'm going to pick one staff member where I call a member of their family and just tell them the great things that they have been doing this year.
That's awesome. I'm going to share 2 just because one I'll share internally. Well, I say that internally, my actual job. One of the things I love to do, kind of going back to what Dennis was saying, is to be visible. And before COVID, I was in classrooms every day. I'd start the day there. I'd walk around. Anyone who follows me on Twitter knows this is kind of what I like to do. And we've been back for about 2 weeks. And it's just a little weird now to walk in fully masked. Kids don't really know me as well because it's been almost a year, and here I come with my glasses and mask and walk in, and it's like it's not as welcoming. So I'm going to craft a message to the teachers to say, I want to come in this week. Let me know a time to come. Like make it more of a collaborative thing than just me popping in like, hey, what are you doing? And crazy uncle's in there, show me what you're doing. This is great. But give the teachers that voice to say, I want to come in, but I don't want it to be the hazmat guy that walks in and like, who's that? And it also might give the teachers a chance to talk to their students, say, oh, whatever they call me, hopefully Dr. Joseph or Mr. Joseph, something appropriate, but say he's coming in, and make it a more collaborative event so it feels like there's a purpose to it. The second thing I'm committed to do this week is reach out. So again, I have to keep going back to it, but I think it's important to acknowledge when someone puts effort in. And this weekend was about 15 or 18 presenters at the Codebreaker Summit, and I saw almost all of them, or a lot of them. And I want to reach out to them, not on Twitter, like publicly, like, hey, great job. Some just indirect, just between 2 people to say, this is what I took away from your session. And as someone who presented, I know what it takes to put something together and the courage it takes to go in front of people. And so I'm committed. It's going to take me a little bit longer, but I'm committed to do that because I think it's important to really harness that sharing with other people, just like you have all done tonight. And Lisa, thanks for jumping over. We are exactly at 9:15, and I want to be respectful of your time, or 9:15 Eastern. I know Dennis is probably like dinner time for you. I don't want to take that away from you, but just appreciate we're just rolling with things and talking about a topic that we didn't even think we were going to talk about, but it's something I think it's important. And all of you each week, however many people jump on, 1 to the whole crew of 15, I've learned so much each week, and I thank you for that and your commitment to each other and for those who watch back or watch live. So thank you all. Thank you for those of you who are watching today. Mom, you've been with me all day from 9 o'clock to the closing keynote to tonight. It's time for bed. And I'll get my 7 a.m. Recap call in the morning. So it's quite enjoyable. But I want to thank all of you for your efforts. Sunday night, have a great rest of the evening and an awesome start to your week. See you, everybody. Lisa, thanks for jumping over.